My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisco Jorge, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Summers, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready?
So the crowd have just gone nuts. They've just realised that Joao Fonseca has won his first ATP Tour title. Unfortunately, the person who lost to Joao is Francisco Cerúndolo, and his brother is playing here right now.
Okay. Well, hello. We are going to be talking about the three events of the ATP Tour that have just passed. There's some extremes in terms of the weather right now. The producer, whom you just saw, is in Rio, and he's like in 30 degrees heat. I am sitting here in my jacket because, well, for some reason, it's very, very cold in my apartment today. Maybe that's because I was outside earlier and didn't really didn't care much for putting more clothes on initially. Anyway, hello, Vansh. And yeah, let's just obviously start from Joao Fonseca, right? I mean, you've already talked about him ad nauseam, and Enrique is also there in the chat saying the real deal tiebreak Seca. I don't know if Joao Fonseca has like a particular, affiliation with tiebreaks, but he definitely played a very good one yesterday.
He did, yeah. That was one of the best finishes could have asked for, almost a perfect tiebreak after not serving it out at 5-4 in the second set, and also 6-5. And he just finished it off with an absolute bang. And obviously the story of the golden swing, story of the week. He is now 68 in the live rankings, so he's slowly climbing up, and a lot of people have big projections for him for the end of the year. And a lot of people think he's going to be a future slam winner, and yeah, pretty much all of that is warranted.
Number one Brazilian for the very first time, and he's probably not going to lose that for the next 15 years. Sejbovic is pretty close in the rankings, but he is defending Rio quarterfinals, just like Fonseca. Obviously, that's something that we're probably going to talk about a bit later. Oh, he is 5-0 in tiebreaks. Okay, sure, yeah. Makes sense. In terms of the week in Buenos Aires, obviously it's ahead of the curve. Obviously, this is something that didn't need to come at this very event, but the fact that it comes, it's fantastic. But what have we learned about Joao Fonseca over the course of the week, since this wasn't really like a run where everything is going perfectly from start to finish?
Yeah, for me, I think it's the mental toughness and resilience, like his the way he was reacting to adversity throughout the whole week. Because after the Etcheverry match, he did have to come back from a set down against Federico Coria, and then he had those challenging moments in the quarters against Navone where he saved the match points. And then he kind of stepped up in the big moments, that backhand down the line winner that he had at 30-40 to save the second match point. And then also the way he was able to just physically as well. I think he hadn't won more than one match over 2 hours and 30 minutes, and then this week he wins 2 of them. And then and then obviously then you also have the match against Laslo Djere where he was up 7-6, 5-3, and then this time he actually loses the second set. It slips away from him. And basically, he has that one medical timeout at the start of the third for his back, and then he basically never looks back. He plays almost a perfect third set, just like he played almost a perfect tiebreak in the final. So basically, all these 4 instances, 4 times in a row, he showed some really good mental toughness. And he should, because you need more than just a really awesome forehand that just jumped off your screen. And he showed that he's capable of playing in so many different ways. mixing in the drop shots and the serve and volleys on the big points, and then also just like, trusting his fitness and his legs and playing the right way against Cerúndolo as well. Just, because Cerúndolo didn't put up his best performance in the final. We can talk about that maybe if you want later, but he played the moment really well and didn't overplay at times when, he just made a lot of second serve returns, and Cerúndolo wasn't always firing on the +1. And yeah, yes. To answer your question, Sean, no, I actually, yesterday it was really bothering me, for like over a week I've had this beard. I mean, over a week, almost a month actually. And for over a week I've just been thinking, okay, I gotta like trim it. I gotta, at least maintain it. So I've tried my best to trim it. It's a little bit uneven, but it'll grow back. Don't worry.
Yeah, I knew there was something, like when you came onto the screen. I know there was something that I couldn't quite place. Yeah, that's what we are talking about, Mr. Producer. Leave already. Leave us, Kid B. Anyway, when it comes to Fonseca, yeah, I mean, you mentioned all the different ways in which he played. And yeah, sometimes you just think of him as this, like, super aggressive, high-octane ball striker, and that's kind of it. Obviously, the serving has improved, the returning as well. But this week, sometimes he was not able to really like play a game like this, especially against Navone when it was drizzling the entire match. The conditions got so heavy. And I think he was, first of all, pretty quick to realize that what he was doing before wasn't going to work. But also kind of like really good at sticking to his guns, both in that match and also in the final. Just basically seeing what was working on the day and just deciding to like keep it up until the opponent finds some sort of a response. I'm not really sure they ever did. Although, of course, against Navone, there were two match points saved, and there he actually really like had to go after his shots, and maybe in the third set it got a bit quicker. Still, it was quite windy. So generally, like moving so far back on return, that's not something that Fonseca was keen to do before. And basically, when he's facing opponents like Navone and Cerúndolo, as you said, he trusted his fitness, he trusted his ability to out-rally guys like this. So basically, if you move this far back, you're going to make almost every return, since they are not exactly pushing themselves for all that much on their deliveries. And I mean, yeah, the final, which you also kind of mentioned already, but it certainly was not the best performance ever from Cerúndolo. But once more, Fonseca just sees what is working. Like he's making front play enough for the errors to come in. Of course, there's nerves. The matches against Djere and against Cerúndolo, we had just as much like clutch Joao as we had a choking Joao for sure. But to play that last tiebreak 7-1, kind of like completely lacking the hesitation that he had in the previous in the two games where he was trying to serve it out. Obviously, that was also quite massive, and like he never really allowed it to be close enough for any more nerves to come in.
Yeah, and then also some people are mentioning in the comments about the home crowd chanting, and like, yeah, that was also a theme that he just played through it, whatever it was that the crowd was doing and chanting for his opponents, especially at the end in stages of the matches against the Argentinians. He just like didn't phase him at all, he's just totally unbothered by it, and just like played through it. And then a lot of the crowd was on his side later, and they really embraced him as well in Argentina, which isn't always the case when you have Argentina versus Brazil matches. I mean, especially in football, but in tennis, yeah, it's not always the case either. And yeah, he already has just like a massive fan following in Rio. Like, there was a football game happening, and then people just stayed afterwards to just watch the end of Fonseca's win. And yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of buzz in South America, just worldwide, but especially that part of the world, for the future, and they're all pretty excited about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the crowds that he had to deal with, I don't think they were that hostile towards him. Certainly, even though he played so many Argentinians along the way, it always felt like there are people in the crowd who are also cheering for Joao. There was a huge sort of like Brazilian group of fans, the ones with his name on the shirt. And yeah, basically it seems like he was able to excel in this setting anyway. Now, of course, he's going to have a much more just like pleasant crowd towards him in Rio de Janeiro. We'll see about the fatigue, but yeah, I mean, for now, we have this question in the title. I know that we already covered it more or less, but just like pretty quickly, what do you think this means for the rest of the year that he's already getting this title? And like, yeah, I mean, sky is the limit, obviously, in terms of like just like general career, but maybe I'm more interested to hear what you think are going to be like the next few months of Joao Fonseca. How are they going to look like? What are they going to look like?
I mean, let's hope he gets seeded by the French Open. I mean, it's going to be tough, but like, he's already at 68 and he's already picked up 250 points here. Obviously, he has the quarterfinal to defend from last year, but other than that, like, I mean, most likely he's going to get into the main draw at Indian Wells in Miami, even if he has to qualify for one of them. Like, he can still pick up so many points between now and Roland Garros, and if he gets seeded there, that would probably be better for the tournament if you want all the top guys in, and you also want him in the mix. And but I don't know. I mean, honestly, like 20 in the world now feels pretty realistic. Like, beginning of the year, I was thinking somewhere in like that 30-40 range, but at this point, like 40 would be kind of disappointing after such a good start. So I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, he can get to around 20 in the world. I saw Prakash Amritraj actually on Tennis Channel say that he thinks he can get all the way to being an alternate at the ATP finals, which I mean is that's like kind of Holger Rune 2022 territory, where he finished like 11, or like was on the edge of that sort of 9 through 12 range, if you like, where you can get into Turin. But I don't know. I mean, I think 20 is about reasonable for this year.
Yeah, I mean, seeding for Australia, that would be a very nice goal, which doesn't seem like too bold right now, but maybe there are going to be some more setbacks. We don't know that, but yeah, alternate for next ATP finals. Yeah, that's actually quite ballsy. Do we think that he will receive a wild card? First of all, Enric, he will not have to receive a wild card from Miami, because the ranking that he has right now is going to be enough. So Miami is covered. Indian Wells, we can't really tell you, to be honest. Miami is always the event that was giving out wildcards to like good youngsters more, especially from IMG, but not only. And I think that for the most part, like Miami, I would be 100% sure. Indian Wells, less so, but this is a special case. I think it's pretty clear that this is a special case. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. For Miami, he won't need it though.
Yeah. I think he was just outside the cut like 6 weeks before Indian Wells. His ranking is probably not high enough for main draw, most likely, but hopefully
it's not it's not just outside. It's significantly outside for Indian Wells.
Oh yeah, because he was like, what was he before that?
99, 98 or something like that. That's already post Australia.
Okay, yeah. So before that, he would have. Yeah, he was.
That's for the because that's his qualifying, and before Australia he would have been like 113, I think, or something thereabouts. That was when he had the when he had the Canberra run. But I think it's the post Australian Open ranking that goes into Indian Wells. Of course, Indian Wells will work on a 4-week deadline rather than 6 weeks.
Oh, it's 4 weeks. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yes, because it's not a slam. Although some call it the 5th slam, so maybe in the future that can happen. That can still happen. Sorry, I got confused for a moment. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's a complete lock, but we might again like arrive in the situation where, just like in Australia, there are going to be doubters, like whether Joao Fonseca can qualify, and he's just going to race through it. But obviously, yes, sometimes there might be a very strong player in there, and sometimes that might not work out. Probably yes, Keen, in terms of Andreozzi. I mean, 70 is pretty high. And do you see any weaknesses or points to improve for Fonseca?
I don't know if there's really any weaknesses, but obviously I think the serve is going to keep developing. I think his fitness is going to keep improving. I think he will just, come to a point where he's kind of more laser focused, so he doesn't have those dips. It's weird. I'm kind of saying the same stuff about him that I usually say about Alcaraz, where he can kind of, he just has so much of that explosive power and athleticism. I don't know if I think his movement in the corners is just going to get better the more physical he gets. Like, we saw a huge jump in Carlos's physicality between 2021 and 2022, and that's where you saw like a real meteoric rise to the very top. And like Fonseca's kind of on that trajectory of having a meteoric rise, but I still think, physically he's obviously like far from developed. He's only 18. So that's probably the area most.
Yeah, his defense of the backhand corner is pretty horrible, but first of all, he doesn't really get put onto the defense that much. Like most of the time it's very hard to actually get him on the back foot. In terms of actually goes to your comment about the returning position, he's not way back like Medvedev. He's there in matches where it was applicable, like against Navone or Cerúndolo. Navone or Cerúndolo, they just do nothing with their first serves, more or less, on clay, and yeah, it worked like a charm there, because even if he gives them a pretty for Fran, he wanted to get a deep high return in. And like for Navone, even if the return is short, he's not going to capitalize. I think that the agility, just in general, it will improve for sure. Return, yeah, you're perfectly right as well. I guess it's just kind of tough to say whether the movements, the agility, is it still just physical development, or will he actually have issues with that going forward as well? Probably it's just physical development, to be honest. We already see some very good footwork patterns there with the backhand on the stretch. I mean, open stance, just like kind of Sinner-ish. And if you can just keep developing that, because for now it's clear that when someone is like pressuring him very hard to that wing, the ability to like slice the ball back, survive in the point, it's not really there. But yeah, I mean that's still gonna work. GMP or someone like that gonna hurt him there? No. Yeah, but against GMP he wouldn't return like this, or at least probably wouldn't return like this. What you're talking about, the returning position he had against Navone or Medvedev, and that's not something that he Medvedev, Navone or Cerúndolo, and that's not something that he does every day. We've already seen him returning on a fast surface, and it wasn't great last year. I mean, on grass, whenever there was someone who was big hitting, properly big hitting, executing his game was really, really tough. But after a full year, I don't know, maybe it will change. All right, do we have anything more to add about Fonseca?
Not really. Unless you want to touch on his draw in Rio.
We could, but we could also do that at the end, I guess. Just mention Rio and Doha. I think we'll just move on and sort of talk about the events first, and then maybe at the end. But yeah, anyway, Fran Cerúndolo was obviously his opponent in the final, and he seems like he really wants this title based on the crying at the trophy ceremony and stuff. Obviously, it's at home. He's had a final before and didn't really give that much of a great performance against Schwartzman either. Ghosty, to your question, Joao played like Billy Harris and lost to him, played Kyle Edmund, played Alejandro Morocañas in Wimbledon qualifying. Yes, Cerúndolo cried, and in terms of the final, definitely his weakest performance of the week, which is a shame.
Yeah, especially after how well he played against Zverev in the sets 2 and 3 in the quarters, and then also against Martinez in the semis, and even against his brother. It was definitely his worst performance of the week. Obviously, he was still very much in the match in the second set, but then he just got. But then, before the tiebreak, and I would say at times in the match when he lost his serve in both the sets, he lost his serve in the beginning, but so did Fonseca. But the kind of decisive break in the first set, that's where he just missed a lot of +1 forehands, or at times, he wasn't super sharp with his footwork in the big moments. Kind of very stationary when he was hitting some of those backhands, and they were getting. And also, he struggled a lot on the return because Fonseca's kick serve was jumping up so high above his strike zone. He wasn't always able to get a clean hit, and then. Yeah, because this match was really about who's going to get their forehand into play first and who's going to dictate from it. And I feel like Joao did that better, and he also served better. So this kind of moments where I think his game dipped a bit too much and to sort of allowed Fonseca some easy chances to go ahead. And same thing in the second set. He just misses like 2 +1 forehands from the middle of the court, and he's like really going for the lines. And yeah, so at times I think it wasn't his best effort, but yeah, maybe someday he'll win this tournament and it'll break right for him.
Yeah, definitely a sloppy showing in many ways. The footwork, especially the 5-0 game when he just like broke back in the second set and starts from a couple just like completely random errors where he's so lethargic with the feet. There's also the 2-0 game in the second set where he gets broken with just like random plus ones. Really, we're seeing this from time to time with Fran, right? I mean, he can fire up and just claim a title anywhere, any surface, really. But at the same time, he also has a lot of showings like this. I think last year it was against Baez in Rio in the semis that he played like this, for example. I don't remember who he lost to in Buenos Aires, but definitely wasn't like a very strong golden swing for him that season. Anyway, from Buenos Aires, we also had Alexander Zverev in the number one seeding, of course, and then losing to Cerúndolo. Well, this is a new thing for him. He hasn't played the golden swing before. I don't know, like where does this run put him in terms of potential Rio contenders, and the whole decision. Like, is he gonna repeat it ever? Is it fine for him to kind of just try something new here?
Sorry, wait. I think you cut off in the beginning. Who are you talking about?
Zverev.
Zverev. Okay, yeah, I figured it was him. Yeah, no, I think it wasn't the best. I mean, he was up a set and a break against Cerúndolo, and it looked like he was gonna just kind of cruise, and his serve was doing a lot of heavy lifting in the first set, and then afterwards, he just got really flat, and he just got very lethargic himself, and then all of a sudden just super passive, and he was just a bystander and to Cerúndolo's heaviness on the forehand, and he was just kind of rolling balls in, not really super sharp. It was just a very flat performance. Although we have seen this from time to time from Zverev. Like at the start of the clay court season last year, he wasn't very sharp. Like in those losses against Munich, against Cerúndolo in Madrid, for example, or in Munich when he lost to Garin, like matches like this where he's just like it's not like the best showing and best firing version of Zverev, but then he sort of like builds towards it in Rome, and then by the time he's at Roland Garros, he's playing better. So like I don't know if this is one of those moments in Rio where he's just gonna suddenly elevate, but you would kind of expect him to, not have two like early round losses like that, because he's usually more consistent. And at the same time, I think the conditions in Buenos Aires were really bothering him in that match against Cerúndolo, because it was really windy and really, he was like really struggling on his forehand, especially. He made so many unforced errors on that wing, and but overall, like if you look at his draw in Rio, you don't, if he plays even 10-15% better, I just don't see how he would lose before the semis. So
probably, yeah. I mean, still Cerúndolo is one of the rare guys in this draw that could have taken him out for sure. Yeah. But yeah, all in all, Zverev has said that like he wanted to play here because he wants to line up for Roland Garros and get a lot of clay practice in. I think that is partially true. Part of that is also the appearance fee. He likes his schedule of having like 20 plus matches a year. 20 plus events a year. Yeah. And, gotta make up these numbers somewhere. So I don't think it's gonna like derail him or not. But, well, the jury is still out on whether he actually is able to succeed in the golden swing and how motivated he is as well to succeed. Whether he's going to have the determination to like fight back against someone, because this week, literally the first opponent that like took the game to him at some point, that was kind of it. He cracked. But I think
it was flat. Like the third set, he had no motivation whatsoever to come back. He was really pissed off at the crowd as well. So that kind of got in his head. He didn't deal with that, in the most mature manner, let's say. But it's like when one of those flat weeks, then. He had some of them last year, and then he sort of made up for it in some big tournaments.
Yeah, I think with that we might move on. Buenos Aires is more or less covered. We had another big story in the Delray Beach final, where Alejandro Davidovich Fokina was playing just his second ATP Tour final, put himself in the position to win it, and did not.
Yeah, that was kind of the main story. 5-2, 40-15, or, I guess 2-5 Kecmanovic serving 15-40 down. Then Fokina played a really great point here. He hustled, he used his legs, he played some really excellent defense, and then he got him. He basically missed this like forehand down the line by like a sliver, and that for a while it there was even a pause, like if didn't know if it was in or out until the very last second, and then he loses that point, and then on the next point, like on the next match point, like Kecmanovic hits this forehand volley to the open court, but it actually hits the net court and then bounces over. So just to add, some more, just to make it even worse for Fokina to have to think about serving it out at 5-3, and then that's where his game just kind of falls apart from like 5-3 to the end. You can just see like those doubts creeping back in. Obviously, he hasn't been in an ATP final since Monte Carlo in 2022, but he's one of these players that is just like his results suggest that he should have won an ATP title by now, if not multiple. So he was definitely feeling it. It was a little sad to watch the snowballing. It kind of reminded me of Bodig van de Zandschulp in that Munich final, where he also had 5-2, 40-15. He was going for his first title against Runa. And then that kind of derailed him for a really long time. So you hope that doesn't happen to Fokina, because he's had a pretty good start to the year. Those two sets to have comebacks in the second and third round of the Australian Open before eventually running out of gas against Tommy. And then this is the start of the year he was looking for after dropping out of the top 50 last year. So yeah, hopefully he can kind of get it back on track. And he actually did play a pretty good game when Kecmanovic was serving for it at 6-5. Like 30 love, he strung together like 3 or 4 really good points. He got a couple of break points, but Kecmanovic fended it off. But yeah, it was a huge opportunity right here. So we'll see if he can put himself in a position again. But Kecmanovic also hadn't won a title in almost 5 years, so 4.5 years. So this is big for him too. And he always plays really well between January to March. He always plays well in Australia, and then ends up like Delray final 2 years ago.
Vance, you've already had your tweet of the day.
Sunshine double, and he was actually the only player to make the quarters of both Indian Wells and Miami in 2022. So, and obviously he played that really good match against Carlos. So, I don't know. He always peaks January through March.
Yeah, very good match against Carlos in January as well, and at the Australian Open last year.
No, but he saved the match point against Paul, and that was a big win.
I think it's more just like that one year that he had a very good January to March, but I can't deny his Delray Beach results have been very nice over the years. I think ADF, he's probably gonna be okay. I mean, it would be tough for him to be worse than last year. Like for a player who in 2023 we were thinking maybe he can make the jump to the top 15, top 10. And then for him to have the season that he did with like absolutely zero highlights, I think that was a bit of a disaster. So possibly, the start to the season is already quite good. I hope he can see the positive in that, the Australian Open run, and of course now this. But yeah, it's not the first time this happened to him. It's just brutal when basically for the last few years, people are talking about you as one of the best players who has never taken a title. A la Jan-Lennart Struff was, but of course Struff was 34 when he got or 33 and 11 months. So hopefully Davidovich Fokina doesn't have to wait all that long. Some of these players, they never do, right? Filip Krajinovic also has an ATP 1000 final and never got that title.
That was the name that was coming to my mind. I hope he doesn't end up like Filip Krajinovic, because that would be a little bit sad. But, he's only 25, almost 26. So there's still time for him. It's not like it's his career ending or anything.
Yeah. I mean, last year he was like pretty much awful for most of the year, and he still sticks around the top 100. So like he still gives himself these opportunities. Probably can't do worse than last year. So he should probably be fine with this. And yeah, Kecmanovic, I mean, Delray Beach final a couple of years back. Now he goes to take the title. And well, speaking of players who are like consistently on the tour, but usually aren't getting the highlights, this is obviously quite important to him as well.
Yeah, it's very important for him. I mean, he also beat Mickelson in the semifinal, which was kind of big for him. Like he to beat an upcoming player like that who's been, had a flashier start to the year, let's say, and then he beat Giron from a set down. And then also the way he kind of turned this final around, like the second set wasn't close at all, and he just gets back into that mode from the baseline where he's just really kind of hard to hit through, like just moving really well side to side, like hitting really, really strong in the corners. And like, it was like the Kecmanovic baseline tennis that makes you think, reminds you of David Nalbandian at times when he's playing his very best tennis. Of course, he doesn't always like consistently maintain it throughout the course of the matches. So then he sometimes has those dips and he doesn't have too much else to fall back on. But when the ball striking is on like this, and kind of he's in rhythm, he becomes really, really tough to beat. And you have to have a lot of other tools in terms of your speed and variety to hit through him. So it was pretty massive for him. He also won the doubles with Brandon Nakashima, and he saved a couple of match points in the quarterfinals. And I'm not sure that's been done before in ATP history, where you win the, I mean, it's obviously been done where you win both competitions in the same event. You don't have to go too much further than Jordan Thompson last year in Los Cabos, for instance. But match points saved in both competitions en route to a title in both singles and doubles. That's something for the historians. I don't think it's kind of hard to keep track of these stats when it comes to match
the
points.
problem is that even the ATP was not cataloging match point saves up until I don't remember which year, but like it's not always been there. So as far as I know, currently people are looking into whether in 2004 in Moscow, Nikolai Davydenko had something like this, because he saved match points, I think, in the final against Greg Rusetsky or something like that. Anyway, he also played the doubles with Igor Andreev, and they beat Radek Stepanek and somebody in the semifinals. And that match was 0-6, 7-6, 6-3. And basically, like, how are you going to find out whether this was a match where they saved any, potential chances to lose it? I don't know. I mean, even if you called Davydenko right now, I think it's a high chance that he would say, like, it was a tough match, but I mean, I don't remember. I mean, it's 21 years ago, and it probably isn't like one of the most memorable moments of his career, beating Stepanek and someone in that semifinal in 2004. So I don't think that's, well, either that or maybe it never happened for somebody to win the same event in singles and doubles and save match points en route to both titles. Of course, Vansh is very right that Jordan Thompson was the last singles and doubles winner at the same event. Nick Kyrgios, I think before that. It's like, reasonably rare, but it happens more or less once every year, every 2 years. But with the match point combination, that's going to be very, very tough to actually find, because, there's no point-by-point data before, let's say, 2010 or whatever. So, I don't think we'll ever know really what happened in that Davydenko 2004 Moscow run. Can you imagine in like 20 years, somebody's asking us as like the long-term experts on tennis, what do you remember about Miomir Kecmanovic and Brandon Nakashima claiming the doubles title in Delray Beach? And then we're like, they saved match points. And of course, probably point-by-point data will be there at that point, but yeah,
that's true. Usually on Flash Score you can find the point by point, but I don't think you can go further than or before like 10 years.
Definitely not. Flash Score is very good for that, but obviously that was also not really there in 2005. I think that's basically in 2005. I would also like to know how the umpires were even like putting in scores. Was it transmitted to any like real time websites? I mean, at that point I was probably getting my results not in tennis because I wasn't following tennis yet, but like, I don't know, of the newspaper, of TV. There was this thing which in Poland is called Telegazeta, which is like a TV newspaper, and you basically had like a lot of different things you could read there in the TV. Like it was quite weird. I don't know how it's called in English. But basically, maybe that's where you would be checking the scores at the time. So I don't think that's had any point-by-point data. Anyway, Okay, there's a lot of talk about Klosterbo. I don't know if we'll get to that. Probably. In fact, I can already tell you we won't. Any other player from Delray Beach that you wanted to mention?
I mean, obviously, a little disappointing for Fritz that he is the number 1 seed in Dallas and Delray. Obviously, in Dallas, Denis Shapovalov was just peaking, and he took him out in the third set tiebreak. But this is not this kind of start you would have envisioned for Taylor, for 2025, especially if he's looking to kind of repeat the season that he had last year. Because obviously, it's tough to win the big titles, especially with his record against Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic. But so this was definitely an opportunity for sure. He's usually very good at this event, just like he is in Eastbourne and Atlanta and stuff. But it was kind of disappointing. He was up many breaks in both tie breaks, and he kind of just gave them away with a double fault, unforced error. Like it wasn't at his very sharpest. Obviously, he still competes pretty hard. He's still, most likely going to bounce back and play some good tennis at some point. But yeah, certainly disappointing loss for him, I would say.
Ghosty seems to be playing in his own fantasy of the curious case of Ghost of Gerulaitis. Yeah, I mean, Taylor, it's kind of the same. Like, he's still losing to like peaking players and doesn't really have the ability to throw them off. But yeah, to these few losses recently, they've kind of, combined into a poor stretch for a player ranked number 4, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, no Delray Beach win, which was becoming a bit of a usual thing for him. I think we have to move on to Marseille then, where Ugo Humbert ended up defending his title. So he did what Taylor Fritz was unable to do, despite having gastroenteritis during the week.
Yeah, he beats Ugo Humbert. French tournaments and indoors is starting to become a pretty big thing in the last 3 years. Where he's just like, once, I mean, I think maybe even before the event, you would have thought, okay, yeah, he's probably going to win this, given Medvedev's form, especially. But obviously, he still had to like win some pretty tight sets. He won a couple of tie breaks, and he won a tie break in the first round, and then he also won the tie break in the final. And like his second serve was just so good in the final. I mean, Medvedev, like, isn't like a world class returner on the second serve, but he was having a lot of issues, like just especially on his backhand return, like just getting a lot of Humbert's returns back into play and kind of like neutralizing the short takebacks that Humbert has, and like he's just very, very clinical on the serve and return, and those like sort of 5-shot rallies he's just so good at, because he takes so much time away, and then it becomes really hard to kind of read because his ball stays so low and it's just so flat through the court. And then obviously, like in conditions like this, like just anything fast, like low bouncing, he's just always a nightmare. And yeah, he just proved that again. So he's now back-to-back Marseille champion. I think it's his 7th ATP title. So he's kind of racking up these 250s indoors, and obviously has a couple of 500s as well in Dubai and Halle, and then the Masters final last year in Paris. But yeah, it's kind of the same Humbert. He's actually like holding on pretty nicely in terms of his ranking and his position the last 18 months.
Yeah, definitely. I think the courts in Marseille are pretty painfully slow, actually, but they are slick. Like,
yeah, they bounce
courts,
really low. So,
but they bounce super low. Yeah. And that suits Humbert as well. Like, anything that's going to be low is fine. And definitely, I think in terms of Humbert here, it kind of felt like a title that only really got threatened when he had that like not injury, but like a physical scare during the week. He said that the day off that he had between the Sonego clash really helped him, and after that was kind of routine. I mean, to me, when Humbert Medvedev, it's kind of like the same story as from Belgrade. Of course, it was closer, but again, it's a lefty strong server that like targets Medvedev's backhand return, and there's really not much that Hamad can do about it. Belgrade conditions were definitely faster, and he like was almost winning, almost no return points against Chapo. Here it was better, but at the same time, I think especially the contrast of their second serves, Humbert just like kind of throws in this usual out wide slice second serve, and that's already a major weapon. And Hamad kind of is starting the point at, well, not exactly an advantage when he's serving with his second serve. I think Humbert won maybe like 65% of his second serve points in the final, with a first serve percentage that was about 50%. So that's really kind of how it was won and lost. And yeah, obviously he's an expert indoor player, just made an ATP 1000 final in the most recent indoor appearance he had, I guess.
Yeah. This is one of those matches where like the first serve percentage is very deceiving, because he had a great serving day, but he just, if you just looked at the first serve percentage stat, you would have thought, oh, he's not making enough first serves, but his second serve does so much damage. So yeah, I agree, certainly.
What is Humbert's ranking right now, Ashley? Let me tell you, but obviously he didn't improve too much given that he only defended his title.
Yeah,
Ugo Humbert presently is 14th, with some chances to go up. I mean, to the top 10.
Is a player who will ever reach the top 10? Like, can he get there this year? Or
yeah, I think so. I mean, Ugo Humbert might have a top 10 peak in him. It also won't be really like that surprising if he never gets there. He is not too consistent generally, and he is kind of dependent on conditions, even if he's made like Monte Carlo quarters before. But yeah, I mean, if you think of like Hugo Humbert, best possible ranking, it's between 6 and 10, right? Not, I don't know, not 12.
Hopefully he's not a Sam Querrey who finishes at like 11 and goes on to. Yeah, no, I think he can get there. Like I think he can hit 10.
Yeah, just all about the timing, really. He gets a big like Miami run or something like that, and it's very possible right now. It's sort of impossible to get into the top 8 at the moment. Well, maybe soon it will be if Medvedev keeps failing like this. But in terms of right now, you can definitely get to number 9 from like a 15-ish position. After that, it becomes significantly more difficult. Many points to defend in Dubai. Yeah, absolutely. He had a very good, I think, 2024 up until early April, then had a bit of a drop off. And then, of course, at the end of the year, he was right back in it. The Tokyo final, the Paris final. So basically, he has some time in the summer to make up, maybe. But definitely, there's a moment there that, like, yeah, still until April, he will be dropping a ton of points. Medjedovic in the final, second consecutive ATP Tour indoor final. Hamad Medjedovic is also rising the rankings pretty quickly at the moment. Of course, this is kind of what we were thinking he would do in 2024 in terms of the results, the game, and everything. But still a decent week, obviously. 72 right now, or even 73, I guess, before this week. Not in the live rankings, I mean, in the official ones, he is 73rd. And just in general, I think he still showed something, despite maybe the opposition not standing up to him, like Khachanov and Medvedev. They played some of their worst matches, well, I don't want to say ever, but in a long while when they were coming up against him. But obviously he was serving great. He was also like constructing the points pretty nicely. Had this choke against Altmaier that easily could have gone sideways, and yet he comes back from like 0-3 break point, I think, in the third set.
0-3 break points.
So still a lot to like, obviously.
Yeah. Still a lot to like. Obviously, Khachanov and Medvedev really underperformed against him. Especially the Medvedev match. But yeah, the Altmaier, the comeback from left 3 definitely impressed me, and then he was like kind of more disciplined. I still have some questions about his like the backhand return, the movement at times, kind of his composure overall. Like can get a bit hot-headed and stuff, but like he's kind of where he was at. He's kind of going in the direction that I thought he would last year. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for him because of the illness at the start of the year, and then didn't really quite get going. But since Belgrade and stuff, this is like what you would expect from him. So still most likely very, very much going to be in the top 50 soon, I think. And good week.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a beast. Slow indoor courts, great for him for sure. Whether he was like trying to just out rally Khachanov, so basically play deep returns down the middle and stay more consistent on current, because on the day that was going to work, he was doing fine at that. Also the matches where he had to be more aggressive. Similar final to the one in Belgrade to me. Again, there are some issues, as you said. He's definitely not a guy where like you're looking at his game and you think, okay, everything is amazing. He's a guy where you're looking at his ball striking quality and you're thinking, oh yeah, that's top 10. And now let's sort of focus on the other parts. Matthew says that his ceiling is top 30. There was a question from Ghosty about it. I don't know if you want to know my answer, because if I give you my, actually, I don't know if I want to give you my answer, because if I give you my answer, then probably you're going to be laughing at me in like 2 or 3 years. But I believe that Hamad Medjedovic will be a top 10 player.
Wow, okay. I was expecting that because I know you're so high on him. Always.
Yeah, I've always had that opinion and I haven't changed it. Maybe not a stable top 10 player. I understand the issues, he's a big dude. Like, I don't know how much of it he would lose. Like, if he was going to be a little fitter, a little quicker, like how much of his like bare power he would lose. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think he's that good. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, I'll tell you, I think at his best he can be like a Berrettini. Like he kind of reminds me a little bit of, he's kind of in that mold. And then maybe his floor is like, I don't know, Botek van de Zandskop. My answer would be maybe somewhere in between, like, I think he can get to top 20. I'm not sure about top 10, but we'll see.
when will Serbian Medi make the top 10? Let's say, well, not this year, obviously. Let's say 2027 or 8 or something like this. I think that might be his peak. He's a terrible mover. Yes and
He kind of
no.
is at sometimes. Sometimes when you watch him, yeah, just like
He
the
is
agility
slow,
around
like
the court.
he's very like heavy-footed and like he's very slow on his feet. He used to be horrible at this. At some point, he was like only good on clay because that's when he could have like enough time to set up. But I mean, I believe that he actually is quicker than you think when he wants to. When he's like really gunning for a shot, I don't think his natural speed is actually that horrible. Medvedevic's serve is fantastic in his work effort. I don't know. But what are his other weapons? I mean, he's got a lot more weapons than the serve, just in terms of the balls, the thunderous power on the ground strokes. He's been really trying to like introduce the drop shot to his game over the last few years, and sometimes he's going for it a bit too much, a la Djokovic. But it might eventually result in him having a proper weapon there too. Like I've seen a lot of matches where he kind of really needs it, because if literally like the power of his cross-court forehand isn't enough, then how is he going to win? But yeah, obviously, yeah, mentality, that's also been a thing. What are his weapons that make him a top 10 contender? When I'm thinking of him as a top 10 contender, I'm actually just thinking about the quality of the ball he plays. Like you watch him in Oeiras this year, for example, and the courts are like really slow. He's facing guys like Rincon, Piros. He's not the opening round against Gerasimov. Like you couldn't believe what he was doing there. It was just like a complete mess, clown show. But then you just watch him suddenly when he gets that boost of motivation, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's just good ball. Like
the kind of applies to his movement as well. Like when he's sprinting sometimes and he's like really engaged, then he can actually kind of sometimes surprise you with how quick he is. Like he'll be running to a shot and he'll hit a really good quality ball off of like a low drop shot that you didn't even expect him to get there because he looked so flat-footed. But then all of a sudden he just has this like sprint. So yeah, he kind of has these like lulls where he's like the focus goes away. But
we'll see.
He seems like a player with a pretty high peak, but he's definitely not going to be like, I don't know, super consistent week to week.
Yeah, probably not. That will probably never happen. But anyway, yeah, that's my opinion. Or I don't know if it's even an opinion at this point. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I just got a bit too much into it. But yes, that's the way I always envisioned his peak, top 10. Let's see if that happens. Anyway, one more player to talk about from Marseille for sure is obviously Daniil Medvedev, the number 1 seed, defeated by Hamad Medjedovic. 2 wins for Daniil. I mean, Pierre Gerber, Jan-Lennart Struff, players who from time to time bothered him. I mean, net rushers, big servers. But then against Medjedovic, it's like more of the same. I think I even said on Twitter that like I could pretty much repeat the Bellucci Rotterdam tweets, like half of it. It was a very similar exit. Obviously, Bellucci and Medjedovic, they play different tennis. But like, there's no threat coming from Medvedev, not from the serve, not from the baseline game, not from like, injecting pace on his ground strokes. And the youngsters just have too much freedom, too much time to like work it out.
Yeah, and then then you saw Medvedev throwing in the serve and volley a ton. You saw him like just be able to get Medvedev stuck in no man's land and use those short slices, and just kind of you see guys that are just they're able to overpower him with their pace generation, but they're also just able to play him and believe they can beat him and not really be troubled by his, kind of, it used to be that his physicality would be so imposing, and then he would step on the court and he'd just boom, hold in like 60 seconds and just put the pressure right back on the opponent. Like that's how good the serve was in 2021. And obviously he wasn't having insane serving numbers in 2023. We already started to see it decline quite a lot. But, he was hitting his forehand bigger. He had more confidence in terms of his, the physicality never faded. His returning even got better. So like he made these like small gains. But then, ever since last year, you could just kind of feel it. Second half of the year since Wimbledon, it's just, I believe like since Wimbledon, he has a 15-13 record, which is like, for somebody of his caliber. I mean, that's including a US Open quarterfinal too. And a Beijing semifinal run. So like he right now it's worrying. Like he could be out of the top 10 if he doesn't pick it up soon.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, by the way. I'm just saying that like their game profiles, they do tend to be quite dangerous to him. And, he just gets through, especially Struff, in such good fashion. What I'm trying to say is that like I was not expecting the performance he had against Medjedovic. Obviously, I thought Hamad might have a chance to win. I thought the same in Rome last year. That was a very close match. But just the way that he went out, it's not really,
Yeah,
that
like
shouldn't happen.
The first 6 games weren't so bad, right? Like he was at 3-all. He was kind of, he was playing some really good points. But then 3-all, he gets broken 5 times in a row, and so now you're just scratching your head at how kind of easy it was for Medjedovic to just run away with the match.
Yeah, you'd think that Medvedev was just gonna, at least push him. Obviously, he was still like the favorites. But yeah, it would be good for him to win a title somewhere for his confidence to wake up a bit. Maybe play in conditions that are going to be a bit quicker. Rotterdam, Marseille, again, not easy to generate pace. Maybe Dubai is going to be better for him. And this is, by the way, the answer to your question, Ashley. Dubai is going to be the next appearance of Daniil Medvedev. He's not playing this week.
Yeah. With the court being a little bit faster, maybe that'll help him just, find some more easy offense.
By the way, why isn't he playing this week?
Maybe just.
Oh no, he is playing this week. What am I talking about? Okay, never mind.
That's what I was thinking. He's playing, but I don't. In terms of title winning chances, you probably wouldn't.
No, actually, no. He's playing both Doha and Dubai. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I was a bit confused. Yeah. He's playing this week, and he's seated, like, in the top 4, right? Is he like the 3rd seed, 4th seed, something?
Yeah. The number 4 seed. Is Medvedev more of a threat over 5 sets nowadays? Questionable. I think it's very questionable. As we saw in Australia, he went 5 sets with Kasidit Samre. I think that should be already quite telling. And when he was a threat at the US Open and at Wimbledon, he was still a threat in other events around the time, right? Like, especially Beijing and especially there was something more. I mean, he obviously had a poor Canada and Cincy, but he had
Shanghai
a good event.
The quarters, but then he just,
No, I'm thinking about something more around Wimbledon, but
yeah, I don't know. After that, he played the Olympics, and then he loses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Olympics on clay wasn't perfect, but like I think it was more about his form at the time still being a little bit better.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, I don't think the format is what determines it, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, obviously Doha, Dubai, still a lot of chances. February usually a very good week for him, a very good month for him. He won Doha last time he played it in 2023, so still good chances there. Can Medjedovic go 5? Yes, that's a question, Ghosty. Yeah, he still hasn't won a Grand Slam main draw match, and the last time he did, physically, he didn't look too sharp in that 5-setter against Marozsan, was it? I think it was Marozsan. Anyway, let's talk about Doha and Rio briefly then. We already kind of started on Doha, and Matthew says that De Minaur is more likely to make the final than Medvedev. And I think we said that on the Iga Carlos show as well, right? That like Alex is looking like it's looking like a Rotterdam event potentially, like again for De Minaur, right? Where he beats everybody just like 6-4, 6-4, and then we'll see what happens against the top guys.
That's what it feels like right now. He's kind of the most sure bet to make it to the final in the bottom half. I mean, obviously you have guys like Medvedev. He has a very poor record against Tsitsipas, but they're not at all playing the kind of tennis that would lead you to think they're going to get there over him. So
yes, some players who did well in the last few weeks doing, they are here as well. Obviously, Medvedev is facing Tsitsipas in the opening round. Pretty slow court, some fatigue potentially, but just like matchup wise, that seems like a really good chance for Hamad as well.
Yeah.
Matthew also pointed out.
They
go
played
ahead.
last year on clay, right? If I'm not mistaken, or they played in Stade maybe, or.
Yeah.
Events.
That was the match where Medvedev had like 1 billion opportunities and didn't take them, but yeah. That was Ikstad, I think. Yeah, he had like maybe a few set points in the opener, then lost, something like that. Anyway, in terms of Doha as well, I think Matthew mentioned that Draper just beat Popperin. We had 5 matches today there already. Lehečka defeated Dimitrov once more, so he has a good handle on that matchup. Of course, Dimitrov was playing for the first time since Australia. Lehečka also for the first time since retiring. Alcaraz pushed through Cilic. I guess not much of a story there, considering it was Marin's first match of the season. But yeah, all in all, I guess
Cilic looked good though, right? I mean, you saw he was, he had 3-4 love 40 in the second set, and he like for the first match back, he looked really good. But just can he stay healthy?
Expectations for Novak in Doha, how much motivation he will have. Yeah, that's kind of like the one that people are looking at the moment, right? Alcaraz, Djokovic. But let's give the other contenders a chance, right? I mean, Djokovic is playing Berrettini in the opening round. Is that an upset?
Yeah, but Berrettini hardcourts, best of 3.
I wish Berrettini had a bit more like momentum,
Yeah, like maybe if he had a match before and then like right away playing Djokovic, I don't know. I don't personally don't think it'll be an upset there. I don't think it'll be, I think it'll be a lot like their other matches. Like there'll be one tie break. There might be Berrettini might take a set, but in terms of pulling it off, I don't think Djokovic should be that worried.
In terms of your question, Matthew, the answer is yes. Demon overtaking Medi in the rankings, very likely happening sometime soon. I mean, presently he's 200 points away. Well, maybe not very likely, but it could happen really soon if because Alex also has some points to defend, obviously. We've got also who will have a better ranking at the end of the year, Medjedovic or Tien. Tough to say, but I would go Medjedovic.
I would probably go. I'll go Tien just for the fun of it.
I think that Tien might have like still.
Because I think he can last physically longer.
Yeah, but I think his results generally will be a little like more up and down. Well, Medjedovic should be the up and down guy as well sometimes, but like, I think potentially he might just like produce stronger results consistently, but we'll see. Maybe Lerner will have he already has a bigger highlight sort of the ATP, the Australian Open fourth round. By the way, in the ATP race, I don't know if this is what prompted Ghosty to ask this question, but Lerner has just 1 more point than Medjedovic, so they are very, very close at the moment. I mean, pretty much that more or less covers Doha, I think. I mean, Alcaraz, Djokovic, the semis, everybody's looking at it, but there are still so many players that can potentially get that, basically stop that from happening. And yeah, Alex de Minaur, very likely to have a Rotterdam-ish event where he's just beating everybody, and then suddenly we'll see what happens against the top guy. That's mostly because all the other seeds in his half are these guys like Medvedev, Rublev, Tsitsipas, all the stragglers. And then also we have Rio de Janeiro, which the main draw action at that event has not begun yet. It's going to begin in 20 minutes with Alexander Shevchenko against Felipe Meligeni Alves. You said earlier that you don't think that Zverev is going to lose to anybody but Fonseca, really?
Yeah, or maybe if he plays Cerúndolo again, I think Zverev will play better this week than last year. But maybe there's also Nicolas Jarry. I know that hasn't been like a super good matchup for him, but Jarry maybe he can actually work his way into this. He has a pretty good draw to get to the quarters. So if like Zverev isn't very sharp or very motivated, he could maybe lose that quarterfinal.
To be honest with you, I find it quite jarring that you think Jarry might. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of agree that like Zverev has a pretty good draw in the first few rounds against Cerúndolo. I think, despite all the like potential questions we have about the motivation and stuff, like it's still one of the few players in that Buenos Aires draw who could have defeated him. Fonseca, I don't think he's gonna win this title. I just don't think it's possible physically, but obviously him playing on home soil, it's the big story.
Yeah, he already has a tough opening round against Muller, and then maybe he'll play Etcheverry again or a rematch. Or I really want to see him play Mute, because I think that could be really fun, especially with all the junk that Mute throws at you, and it's just a completely different play style than mostly anybody on tour. And So I will be hoping that Mute wins that match against Etcheverry, just to kind of see something different. And then after that, yeah, you could play either. Who else is really in that section? Cerúndolo probably gets to the quarters. Probably. He's playing Gaston, and then maybe Delian or Darderi. Yeah. So Fonseca, maybe, I want to see him get to the semis and then play potentially against Jari or Zverev. So I'm not totally ruling it out. Like maybe he just runs on adrenaline and maybe he'll be fine. I don't know. I have, after all, predicted him to win 2 Golden Swing titles this year, so I'm kind of just standing by it.
Yeah, I think the better shot will be Santiago, but we'll see. Even the matchup against Miller, like he's gonna have to like mill it over. Tactically, it's not the easiest.
They're kind of forcing that one, but okay.
Yeah, I am. But anyway, well, yeah. In terms of the bottom half, there are so many players that are like out of form or basically really need this run, like Tabilo, who hasn't won a match yet this year, Baez, who is defending the title and could fall out of the top 50, Musetti, who just withdrew due to, what was it, right soleus muscle, I think, in Buenos Aires. So maybe Pedro Martinez, he's been firing to begin the season. His forehand was the 4th best forehand in Rotterdam, or the 3rd best forehand in Rotterdam. Maybe it can also be the 3rd best forehand in Rio de Janeiro. Certainly looking possible. And yeah, that's, I think, more or less it in terms of the previews, the 2 ATP 500s. I think Fonseca isn't in the Santiago list, really?
Oh, that's not good.
I thought he was announced there, maybe as a wild card. Let's see. I mean, you're obviously right. Let me see if there was a wildcard announcement, because I thought he was going to be playing all of these, but maybe I was just like imagining things.
I thought he was on it too.
That's from 11 months ago, so that's not that. Well, that's not it either. ATP 250 in Santiago, no, but that's from last year. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's not
I'm
playing
looking at the
it.
entry list and I don't see his name in either the.
Well, he's definitely not on the list. Yeah, I'm just wondering if he got a wild card, but maybe not. Maybe that was just us. I don't know, just coming up with this. Actually,
Maybe
never
he
checking the list.
He refused the wild card.
Oh, he refused the wild card? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I was assuming he would play this. So, okay.
Oh, and apparently Joao says that Musetti withdrew and Faria is in.
Oh, John will be happy about that.
Yeah, John will be happy about that. I won't, because I will have to do something very quickly after we finish the stream then. But anyway, well, what can we do in terms of that? I think that we've pretty much covered it all regarding... I still don't see the Musetti. No, that's not... You're just trying to make it happen, right? No, I think, Joao, you're just manifesting, right? I don't know. I haven't seen anything about Musetti or drawing it, but maybe that's gonna come soon. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, lots of content coming from the Rio Open, including today. As you can see, the producer has arrived at the venue. Yeah, I don't think that he withdrew. No, so no, I think Joao is just manifesting, but maybe it will happen. Obviously, I don't want to like ruin his dreams and John's dreams, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I was talking about... Oh, okay. I was talking about BA. Yeah, I was talking about Musetti withdrawing from his last match, which is why, obviously, it's kind of like in danger, how well he's going to play here, rather than whether he's going to play. But I don't know. Maybe. Let's see if there's any more withdrawals and lucky losers in Rio. But I think we've pretty much done it all. I think the double ATP 500 weeks, they are very entertaining generally, right? So
yeah, these are some of the best weeks on the calendar, and we're gonna have one the following week as well. So you have 2 in a row now coming up before Indian Wells.
Yes, indeed, and it will also be backed up with a 250, right, in the second week. So lots to watch there for sure. So yeah, anyway, we covered all the stories. Musetti has not withdrawn, and we don't know about any intention to withdraw. Daniil Medvedev is playing both Doha and Dubai, and Khamzat Majidovich is making the top 10. These are the main
And
things.
Joao Fonseca is not on the list for Santiago.
Oh yes, and Joao Fonseca is not on this for Santiago, and Joao Fonseca has to win both Rio and Buenos Aires in order for your prophecy to be fulfilled.
Okay.
That's the main takeaways from this stream. That's the things that we basically were either wrong about and had to quickly come up with a correction, a la Mohamed Layani, or these are the things that we are so sure about that we decided to make them an official prediction. Vansh's official prediction is that Joao Fonseca will win Rio, and mine is that Khamzat Majidovich will make the top 10 in like 2027 or 2028. Anyway, this is pretty much it. Fonseca, Umber, Kecmanovic, the winners of last week. Now let's just tune into the Rio and Doha action. Of course, Doha done for the day, but Rio starting in about 12 minutes with Shevchenko and Merigeni Alves. Thank you, Vansh, and thank you to everybody in the chat who was here with us today.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. See ya.